and was like, "Hey, man, have you heard from Andy? Is he okay?" And I just responded, "He's no longer with us." No, I'm kidding. I said,
You
"Yeah, he's
should.
fine. I'm doing a show with him today." Not to mention, Week 18 was such fucking. It's terrible. I mean, the Steelers Ravens game was awesome, but outside of that, there was nothing to talk about. That week sucked. But this should be fun.
Well, how about we just use that for a cold opening? There was nothing really to talk about last week other than the fact that Aaron Rodgers came through with a division win a couple weeks after Phillip Rivers hadn't played in 5 years and threw for however many yards and a couple of touchdowns over the 49ers, cementing something that I drew to your attention last year. And I feel like you were kind of 50-50. I never know sometimes when you don't want to, you'll semi-agree with me. But I think later on to your Philly guys, you're like, this guy's an asshole.
But I don't want to be combative. No. I'm more than happy to disagree. I think it makes for better content anyway.
Yeah, but I was mostly saying we're living through the donkification of quarterbacks. The dumbed down quarterbacks who can't read a line of scrimmage and rely on their coaches to scheme them up things. And we're seeing worse play. Whereas in other sports, you see better play. You watch people play 90s basketball. Some of it looks like a joke. It only heads in one direction in terms of the athleticism competition. Not with quarterbacks in the NFL. I believe we're seeing nothing but worse play. And I feel like I've been proven right on a couple of different fronts.
I think you've been vindicated, yeah.
Before we get into that, I do have to address the audience here because I know they're like, wait, what is this? Did we just snap into this? Obviously, as I mentioned in the last video that's posted, which was a Dave and a Dan episode, I had to go on the IR. I was on the IR resting the neck. It was, I'd say in the last episode, almost 50%. I think I'm up to 70-something%. And, just like in the NHL, like Mark Stone has to be on the IR so that he's good for playoffs. I just did a couple straight seasons. And then I had to take some time off to get a little better because Dave and a Dan's a little bit different. We shoot this in the afternoon. I can kind of do it at my pace, but I don't have to stay up late and add extra stress to myself. But I'm feeling better. And the plan currently is on Monday, I'm going to return to doing the NHL videos, and maybe this week, if everything's fine this weekend, I'll do a long catch-up NHL video talking about kind of where we're at on the season and why this season is mostly a scam with the condensed schedule. We'll see if I'm feeling up to that this weekend. And Dave, if you want to play therapist for a second, I just do want to let you know something and the viewers simultaneously at the same time. You can see Scott Baio over my shoulder there. And he was on a show called Charles in Charge, I think, in the early 90s. Maybe it started in the late 80s. And before I did Odd Shopper, I was doing nothing but comedy videos, and I was auditioning. And the peak of my existence, the plan, was to write and star in a modernized version of Charles in Charge. And Charles in Charge was where this guy who, just looks like me, essentially in a different generation, he moved into a house, lived in the basement, and had to watch the kids for the parents. And the hilarity ensued between his relationship with the kids and the parents. My thought was to have the Gen Z kids and then somebody from a previous generation and all the interconnected hilarity that would ensue between someone from a previous generation and then all the differences that live between the kids of a younger generation. That's kind of what I was focused on. That's actually what my plan was. Somehow you fast forward a couple years and I'm digging into alt props on websites and I am a wild branch miles off to the left. If you would have shown me this, like when I was in Paramount Studios auditioning for, I'd be like, what the hell is this guy doing? So I bring that up because as I was seeing some messages sent to me, the amount of derelicts, well, I need my picks. I just want to state something, and this was always known, even when I started at Odd Shopper. Do you want to know what brings me zero satisfaction? Zero. if I know that some guy won money, some guy in Pittsburgh won money because of some words I said on here, you want to know what brings me infinite joy? And I can remember, I know his text. I shared it with someone when Dave texted me saying he was walking his dog. He had maybe his wife and kids were there. And some guy from across the street yelled, "Hey, Dave, I love the Megalodon bit." That's what brings me joy. Entertainment, entertaining people, thinking of stuff like a megalodon, that whole concept of the most Dan of
That's
the
a true
Dans.
story too.
Yeah, so it's like, that's why I got into this. And when I find myself just going through pages of alt lines, hoping I could give some guy his bet, I was never meant to do that, nor do I enjoy it. So when I see people say, like, skip the first 20 minutes, there's no bets, just know you may have to skip even longer, because what I enjoy doing is bringing all the other nonsense, the stuff that OddsShopper essentially wanted me to do while I was there. So going forward, whether it's this video, whether it's NHL videos, if there aren't enough bets, you know, there are millions of channels. Hey, Dave, have you heard of a channel they could go to that knows a lot about odds and where you can shop them and get some bets?
Yeah, I do. You know, it's funny. Like my picks for every game video, there's so many times where most people are cool, but you get people that are like, dude, you could do this video in 5 minutes. It's like, I don't want to do the video in 5 minutes. I want to take the time actually talking about it, have some fun with it, you know, hopefully create a little bit of entertainment so it's not a boring drag throughout the 30-minute. I hear you. It's just, but you know what though? You got to remove that noise. There's going to be people that do that shit all the time, but then there's other people who appreciate it, and that's all I care about. Like there's a lot of people that have followed my content for a long time now, and they always say, like, dude, I'll watch you do anything. And those are the people that I want to do content for. Everybody else, I couldn't care less about. And by the way, I must say, your comparison for your neck injury was spot on. It is identical to an NHL hockey player going on the IR. Yeah.
so really, what I meant,
thought of a better way to describe what you do than to say, you know what, take an NHL hockey player who, you know, took a boarding call and his neck is, you know, shattered and he won't be back for 6 months. It's similar. Yeah.
Well, Dave, you've proven the basketball guy you are.
I'm not a basketball guy. I don't know why.
Because I'm that's who you are to me, because there's a reason I used Mark Stone. He's the guy that they put on the IR so that they can add more players under the salary cap, and magically game one for the player, it's strategic rest that they put him on the IR for, as if he has the broken neck. But yeah. Yep.
Oh, see, I knew that.
They closed that loophole this year, by the way. You're not allowed to do it anymore. Anyway, what I kind of meant was, been a couple of years, multiple straight videos, had to take a break. It was good because I got to kind of, you know, do some things that I wanted to do, kind of reorganize how I wanted to go forward. And then, yeah, everything should be relatively normal from here on out. But the NFL season, not normal anymore, because we're here in the playoffs. And I guess we just briefly at the top, we're talking about those Steelers. Is that a good play? Can we work memento style? I know that's the Monday night game. That's the last game, but you know, last on the docket, maybe first here to talk about what's your overall sentiment with this Steelers Houston game? Steelers obviously being at home.
Yeah, solid memento reference. I like that. We're going to Benjamin Button it. Yeah, no, I'm with you though. I think we could start with that game, and I tell you what, Mike Tomlin is just the type of guy that when there are these type of short dogs and they're kind of just expected to lose, that they pull it out. I said this when I did my video last week. You and I didn't get together for the past couple of weeks. It was New Year's Eve. It was Christmas Eve. Figure come back for the playoffs. I said the same thing last week. You know, everyone's looking at Lamar Jackson returning and looking at this Baltimore team. And it's like, well, the Baltimore Ravens are favored. They got to win this game. You know, the Cleveland Browns, I also tell everybody, I was like, listen, if you are someone that is, screaming at the top of your lungs that the NFL is rigged, you better bet Cleveland against Pittsburgh. You better bet Cleveland against Pittsburgh. And they won outright, but those are the type of games they lose. Then these are the type of games that they win or stay competitive. I grabbed the Steelers at plus 3.5 earlier in the week. It's 3 now. I still think it's fine. Let me give you just like a surface level analysis on this game. The Steelers have a really good pass rush, right? Like they do have a good pass rush. They can get to the quarterback and they can stop the run. Derek Harmon's kind of unsung hero there, but their number one first round draft pick, I should say. They can stop the run. Watt's back. He's healthy. They got some dogs there on the line. The secondary, not so much. And we saw some of those breakdowns last week with Zay Flowers getting those big plays. Stroud can scramble a little bit, but on the other side, you've got Aaron Rodgers, pretty statuesque. Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, really good defensive line there. Great secondary. So the edge definitely still goes to Houston, but I don't think the edge goes to them enough because their offense to me is still suspect to where this game could just crawl and stay very close and come down to the final possession. So that's kind of where I land. I have more respect for Houston's defense, but I also think that Pittsburgh pass rush can do enough to disrupt a pretty average offensive attack for Houston.
You said a couple things in there that made me smile because naturally, without ever talking about it beforehand, it led to something that I got queued up for you. You had mentioned that in your video, you'd said if you're someone who believes in the rigged crowd, and that was for Cleveland?
Yeah, remember Cleveland won at home. If Pittsburgh won, they would have locked up the division, but they lost.
Hence, no drama. Yes. Yeah. So you need that to add the drama.
Yep.
So now everybody who believes every last thing is rigged, we got something else for you here. How about this one? And this is the sheer amount.
I saw this tweet the other day
of numbers that are all the chips being pushed on Houston. So if you're somebody who says Vegas rigs the game so they win money, Terry Benedict wants to open a second casino across from the Bellagio, and he needs to do it on the back of your $2 parlay. And if that's going to be you, then look, they're telling you right there, everyone is on Houston. And what are you going to do on Sunday? You're going to bet Houston and then say it's rigged when they lose, despite the fact you watched this video. You're going to say you didn't, but then we're going to pay all the money to do the IP tracking. You're going to say, oh, yeah, who was that then? You're going to say, no, it's my younger brother. He watches you, but I don't. You're going to have an excuse. But you got it right there. You believe in the rigged. You know who to take. What do you believe of this screenshot? Is it all a scam or what's going on here?
Yeah, I mean, I that's not why I would bet it, if that's your question. But I think there's something to be said about the Houston Texans are good. This has moved from 3.5 now to 3. The Steelers are still at home. It's going to be a cold weather game. And again, the Steelers are not a great football team, but defensively, I think that line can hold up. I think they can slow the run down. You're still talking about a Houston team that's operating with a rookie running back in Woody Marks, who has been fine, but, unspectacular. You know what else I think? And you'll probably appreciate this because we've talked about these guys a lot this year. J.Warren and Kenny Gainwell have been difference makers. J.Warren's running tough right now. Kenneth Gainwell as a pass catcher out of the backfield, even in those games without DK Metcalf, where you knew it was coming, he was still able to pick up big yards. So I think Metcalf will have his hands full against Derek Stingley, no doubt about it. But I don't know, Andy. I'm not convinced that so I posted, let me tell you this much, right? And this is why another reason I think you're right. And it kind of adds to what you just had on the screen. So I posted I was like, let's have some fun with this week. I posted a money line round robin, a buy 3.
Where did you post it?
On Tails, which is.
I mean, you don't get. I could be out for weeks, but you don't get better. I mean, that's as I got older in hockey, I used to want to score. I mean, there was a year when I was a kid. It was a joke. I had like 30 something goals and 2 assists. Mm-hmm. But then all of a sudden, as I was an adult, it went fully the other way.
Dude, setting people up for goals is I had a game last night, and I would bring it up, and then you feed them in the slot, feed them on the little, fake pass or fake shot in front. When they score, it is a great feeling because you did that.
My specialty is 3-on-2s as a center. So you have the two defensemen and you got two wingers. Getting the defenseman on the right, so the left defenseman, to think he can kind of get it to me. My backhand sauce over a right defenseman is
there you go.
As the right winger, because I know when he's going to overtake him and can cut it to the net. This isn't the NHL where they can close distances like that, even on a pass like that. Yeah. So saucing it over as that right winger streaking. And that's what I did for you right there. And now this has gone on so long that it makes it null and void. So where did you tell people to bet that round robin?
Right. For those of you who are still watching, over on Tails, you can check
What are the bets? What are the bets?
We got some coming. Tails.bet. Actually, that's where you can find plenty of bets, too. You create a free account. There's no credit card. You just put it in. Dude, we're building something awesome over there. I know a lot of your guys are there already because they hit me up in the comments saying, is Andy dead? But I'm not joking either. There are actually people commenting on Tails being like, hey, can you check? Can we do it? Can we get a wellness check? But
yeah, someone said, are you alive? And I said, no.
Yeah, there you go. No, this is Andy's mother. But that
was speaking of my mom, when she used to walk in and like I would be out there on the couch and she'd go like, and is that you? I go, no, it's not me. Like she'd say, right. Who else is it?
Right. Yeah, you better just go on Andy. But check it out. I posted that parlay, and you put the link in the description for me if you guys want to get quick access to that. I posted that moneyline round robin, and I was like, let's have some fun with it. You guys let me know which legs of this you would swap out. And I had Pittsburgh in there. And almost every comment, I got a good amount of them, almost every comment was swap out Pittsburgh for Houston. So, of course, they could win. No doubt about it. They're still favored, and overall, they're the better team. But it's that type of game Pittsburgh wins where no one sees it coming. And I have a very tough time betting.
Really? Well, first of all, there's that one thing that we've talked about in the past. If everybody's piling their money on Houston, why did the line move the other way? Mm-hmm. And secondly, it's not that crazy. You have a team in Houston who's going on the road into Pittsburgh.
In the cold.
Like in a crazy environment, nobody would be surprised if Stroud crumbles. And the offensive line, which was a major issue early, look, they're playing great. Jaguars are playing great. Wouldn't be surprised if they're both sent home this weekend. So it's just like I always wonder, did Men in Black really come up with something that deleted people's memory from seeing something? And I'm the only one who remembers the 7-9 Seahawks beating the Super Bowl champions because they had a home game. Mm-hmm. Or a couple of years back, I believe was it the Bucks who were under 500 and they ended up beating the Super Bowl or when the Eagles lost. Yeah.
They smoked the Eagles as a matter of fact.
They destroyed them.
Mm-hmm.
So don't forget these things. When you go on the road, things can get ugly quick if they don't start properly. So just something to remember. Many awful, in quotes, teams. Plus, Pittsburgh's got some good vibes, good energy with that, with my guy Rodgers with that pose. They're going into this game with some additional confidence. And if none of that tickles your fancy, one thing that we learned, and you briefly mentioned, is that Rodgers, and part of the reason they lost that Cleveland game, was just constantly scared of the pressure. All year, scared of the pressure. None of those receivers could get open. He found a few, just enough. Yes, he will be getting Metcalf back this week. And I don't know if this is just, an ode to some of the previous stuff that we gave out here, but I understand Kenneth Gainwell, who now Dave has to have in his life, at least that's like a 3-year. He's going to be involved in your life for 3 more years now.
I admitted on a show yesterday that I was wrong about Kenneth Gainwell. I asked for forgiveness. I was wrong.
Who knows if you are? Maybe this is a one-off. We've seen weird running backs. I've seen Danny Woodhead look like a Pro Bowler.
Yeah, it's true. J.Warren here though. I like it. You can't, it's really hard to throw to receivers against the Houston Texans. Because I was thinking Freiermuth as well was interesting. I bet the over on him last week. He is criminally underused in that offense. I don't know what Arthur Smith is doing. Freiermuth's good. Like, he's good. And they won't get him the ball as often as they should. They'd rather target Adam Thielen and Marquez Valdez-Scantling 9 times a game. I was looking at this Warren prop earlier today because at 11.5, there are going to be games where he's not targeted, but this feels like the type of game where once again, you lean on your backs. It's not like Houston doesn't know it's coming, but they've found ways to get these guys in space. And it seems like a much wiser idea than trying to force feed it to Calvin Austin.
Yeah, and I think it's no shock to anybody. I mean, if DK Metcalf can't get open, Rodgers doesn't like taking many chances.
Right.
And he likes some high percentage plays.
Yep.
And he doesn't like being affected by the pass rush. We saw a million checkdowns last game. Who knows? Maybe if the run game is just working fine, because now, I mean, Kenneth Gainwell is getting a ton. I think Gainwell getting so many receiving looks is helping us out here, because we've seen Warren's number we've seen it north of 20 before. Don't forget, Jaylen Warren is a great receiving back, and that is something that, I don't know, I absolutely like in that game. Kenneth Gainwell, 11.5. It's just a very doable number, in my opinion.
It's crazy. He only ran 12 routes last game, but was targeted 5 times. I kind of like it more knowing that when Kenneth Gainwell is out there, you assume that the ball's going to him. Not every time, you know what I mean? Like, there's a higher likelihood that he's getting the way that they're using Warren is kind of, he's clearly the dominant guy on the ground and he's running well, but I like it because you don't really have much of an inkling one way or the other if the ball's going to him in the air. That's what allows a guy like that to break off a 15, 20-yard reception.
Yeah, you catch them off guard. And we saw that last week. Like, there was one screen. I mean, he was just kind of fully left to and he's so good in the open field too. Right. So, you know
you see that with a lot? Derrick Henry. He'll just have a random 50-yard receptions because no one's even
But that makes sense. That makes sense. Warren, they should always be scared.
For sure. And look, they do account for him. It's not like they aren't accounting for him as a pass catcher. I just mean it's less obvious than it is Gainwell right now. Gainwell's still getting it done, and to his credit.
Let's go over to a place that I'm sure you've been before, Philadelphia. Place that you're pretty close to right now, a place that has shown you so much over the last decade. You've seen dominant teams just unravel. You've seen teams who you're like, well, I guess that's it with Wentz out. They looked awful against Atlanta and then just magically turned to the highest scoring team of all time, win a Super Bowl. Yep. You've seen a team go to the Super Bowl that they should have won, lost, then lose to. You've seen it all. How you feeling about the Eagles going into the playoffs?
Going into the playoffs or getting through the playoffs are two different questions. I do like them in this game. And it scares me to say that, but you're getting Lane Johnson and Landon Dickerson back. You're getting Jalen Carter back. The Niners do not have a great pass rush. They're 29th in pass rush win rate. They have the fewest sacks in the league. You know, when you look at the injuries, and I said this on a show earlier this morning on our DFS channel over on Stochastic, that I think Kyle Shanahan, and he won't win it because you've got guys like Liam Cohen, you have Mike Vrabel, you have Ben Johnson, right? Like, there's a lot. You have Mike McDonald, a lot of good coaches. I think the coach of the year should have been Kyle Shanahan, because this guy going into week 18 had an opportunity. And I know if they won that game, he would be, but to be the number 1 seed when you lost Nick Bosa, you lost Fred Warner, you were down Kittle twice, once to the IR. Jennings was out a bunch. Pearsall was out a bunch. Brock Purdy missed like 5 games. You know, there's a team that has been decimated by injuries. And now, though, they lose their backup to Fred Warner. So their linebackers are decimated. their cornerbacks are, you can get to them, especially if there's no pressure. It does feel like Philly has the advantage in this game on both
Do
sides.
you get called like a homer when you speak positively about them?
A lot of times, yeah, but then people are like, I'm just, because they like to mess with me because they know I'm not.
Yeah.
And I mean, how many times on this show alone have I bet against? Typically,
Oh,
I bet
yeah.
against
Well,
the Eagles.
you're a miserable fan, which is good because you don't like just see everything in,
Which
you
is why
know,
this scares me,
rose.
which is why I don't like that. I like
Here's the good news. I think the 49ers suck. Like, I think they outright suck. Like,
Yeah.
I think they're junk. And that is my belief. I mean, I could really end it at that. My proof is when they play real teams who don't just go, all right, because a lot of those Niners wins, I've talked to you many times this year about the Bills. I've talked to you about other teams who it's like, look, teams who have aspirations in the NHL, NFL, they mail in games. Games that but then there are games they show up for. And when you know you're going to get the Bills showing up, going all out, it's going to look different a little bit than the defense getting waxed on a random Thursday against God knows who. And the 49ers, I think, when they had all those injuries and they're playing the Rams on a Thursday night, and the Rams look like they're just going through the motions, and then they lose on a field goal at the end of the game, opposed to later in the year where the Rams like, no, we need this game. The Rams kicked the shit out of them.
Yeah.
Then they play the Seahawks, who Darnold played bad in that game, and they kicked the shit out of them because the Niners are just a full tier below, who squeezed out a bunch of wins because A, they played teams who weren't good, or teams, you can just see it, mailed in the performances. And then when they truly were up against it, against good defenses, and that's the one thing you know they're going to face on the road. How do you think Purdy feels in that stadium, by the way? And I think the Eagles are going to beat the crap out of them. And a lot of the stuff that didn't work for the Eagles during the year, like the run game, San Fran, I mean, Kenneth Walker struggled all year long. Charbonnet did. I mean, they continued to run, but this was not some running game like the old Jonathan Stewart and D'Angelo Williams, where they were running for 200 yards every game.
Yeah.
They stuck with the run, but it wasn't that effective. Against the Niners, you just saw them gashing them left and right. I think the Eagles are going to have no problem moving the ball. And then on the other side, you're going to have a team who's going to be under immense fire from a defensive line at home that's going to be able to get through. And if the Eagles play from ahead, it's going to be a long day for the Niners, in my opinion. I think they kill them. And I also think you're going to get the reins to all quarterbacks who are somewhat saved for the playoffs. This is when you see Jalen Hurts. They let him just on options, just run. Anytime the front calls for it, they'll let him run because there's no more saving him. They're trying to go back to the Super Bowl. You know, they rested everybody. And that's why I'll get to one of the props that I like, but that's my belief. The Niners are it's going to look no different than last week. They're going to get killed.
Man.
Yeah.
You're confident in this one.
Yeah, no, Phil. The thing is, I mean, yeah, I will. You know how I feel about money lines and stuff.
That's why I'm asking. Yeah.
After I saw, I'll always bring this up. After I saw the Chiefs never be able to they just scored on everyone at will, went through rounds of the playoffs, came back with 10 seconds left, scored on every drive against Cincinnati Bengals, and then scored 0 points or 3 points. And Mahomes had like 2 interceptions, and they lost to the Bengals, a franchise that never wins. I will never say something's 100%.
Yeah,
the wildest things can happen. I am thoroughly impressed by the thoroughly unimpressed by the San Francisco 49ers. And if they stick it to me, they stick it to me. Do I think this will set the Eagles off on a path? I don't know. But if I was the Eagles, I'd love to see Darnold and, the Seahawks they're a vulnerable 1 seed. I'm not going to call them a full scam like the Tannehill Titans, but that's a vulnerable 1 seed.
On offense, not on defense, yeah.
But really, Dave?
What?
So forget about last week because...
Were you going to that Rams game?
by God, the Rams just destroyed them, though. Like, that shouldn't be a possibility. It should
When you're
not be a
that good of a
possibility.
defense, you're saying?
Like,
Yeah.
he threw for like 400 yards and 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
That should not be one possible outcome in 2 years of play if you're that good of a defense.
And
And
Tampa
I
put
just,
up 35, 38 on them earlier in the year, too. They've had a couple weird kind of anomalous games this year. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's a single team that is just dominant. You look at the Broncos. The Broncos are for sure beatable as a 1 seed.
oh, yeah. Yeah.
Every team out there is beatable. That's why I don't think Pittsburgh's winning the Super Bowl. I don't think Houston's winning the Super Bowl. But if Houston gets past Pittsburgh, would I be surprised if they made a run? No, I wouldn't.
And that, what I was just talking about brings me to these two picks are based off of everything I just said here. I think the reins will be off Hurts. Anytime he gets the right look, they'll allow him to run. And I think the number that they've given to him here is baked on the whole regular season's worth of data that they have. But I think things are different come playoff time in all sports. So I'm gonna guess that he's gonna run a little more often than he typically did, which is why I like his over. And I see things going no differently for McCaffrey as they did last week. I think you're gonna get a rested defensive line just engulfing the Niners. And if the Eagles are playing from ahead, you're going to see what you saw from the Niners last week. It's going to have to be a lot of passes, a lot of dropbacks, and they're not going to be able to stick with the run, which in my mind isn't going to be working in the first place. Let's say if maybe it all goes to shit.
I like it. The rushing yards on McCaffrey is one I like. The Hurts one. Here's the only reason because I've combed over all these props as well this week. The Hurts, the only concern I have there is that they just simply don't get a lot of pressure, the 49ers. And if they don't get a lot of pressure, I'm not sure how much he's going to need to run the football. Now, maybe they just do get pressure and the line breaks down, which is always a possibility. So you can always analyze this stuff, and then it turns out, oh, wait a second, the Eagles aren't pass blocking well, and that's a problem. But you would think that with Lane back and with this offensive line healthy that they would. I actually was looking more at the AJ Brown receiving yard numbers over Jalen Hurts rushing this week.
That's a beautiful thing that two people can look at a board and see different things. Because me with AJ Brown and Devonta, they'll leave you chasing your tail. So I'll let you.
I've had good results on AJ this year.
Second half of the year he was actually pretty consistent.
Very good.
After like all the headlines and
moaning,
drama. But that's something that you can get behind this week. Any worry that they're playing from ahead and then they just kind of run it and.
That's real tough to say in the postseason. It's and at the end of the day, it is still only a 4.5 point spread. The one bet I actually like here, it's a fun one. It's a anytime touchdown at 2-1. I posted this over on Tails too. So one click tail that if you want, but is Dallas Goedert anytime touchdown. Now I'll give you something that I found it crazy. I don't know if anyone else cares or finds it interesting, but I found this crazy. So Goddard has 11 receiving touchdowns this year. That's second most in the league behind only Devontae Adams. No one's mentioned that, Goddard has 11 touchdowns this year. Listen to where his touchdowns have come from. This is crazy. This is from yards out, right? So how many yards were the 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, 6, 15, 17, and 33. That's 8 touchdowns from the 6-yard line or shorter. That's 7 from the 5 or closer. He has as many touchdowns, inside the 5 or at the 5 or inside as Barkley and Hurts combined this year.
I just thought of something. When was the last time Lane Johnson played?
3 games
roughly.
ago?
Roughly.
3. I think he missed probably 3 games. But they've been using Goddard as a de facto goal line back all year long.
What I was going to say, this is kind of me moonwalking back to another point. Is there something in them potentially utilizing more tush pushes with a healthier offensive line, hence Jalen Hurts rushing attempts. This was just something that it just popped in my mind. If they feel more comfortable about the offensive line, do they then use the tush push more? That's kind of where my mind went with that when you were bringing up short yardage.
The reason that they're not using the tush push as much this year is because they're in bad, second, third, and longs. Where if you look at their like the down and distance this year compared to last year, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but I know like 4 weeks ago their average third down was 3rd and 8, whereas last year it was nowhere close to that. Remember, they could run it all day long.
Yeah, of course.
But also, they might. I'm not saying they won't run it because Goedert can also get there in other ways. What I'm saying is that only one other player has more targets inside the 5 than Goedert in the whole league this year. So you actually get that added element of this guy can get it from further out. He can get it from close in. And I just think what happens is these teams defensively are going to heavily prioritize stopping Hurts and Barkley. And they've done a decent job. Barkley has 1 touchdown inside the 5 this year. Whereas with Goedert, it's those shovel passes. It's you get the defense to commit to the run, and there's Goedert just standing there, a couple yards deep in the end zone. We've seen so much of that this year that I don't know. I think it's crazy that a tight end has 8 touchdowns of 6 yards or shorter this year. So they clearly like using him in that capacity.
You're the touchdown guy. So
what's that?
You're the touchdown guy. So
the Niners also don't have the linebackers to really cover somebody like Dallas Goedert either. So it does
because they're awful. Dave, that's it for them. We're waving goodbye. Now start focusing on who the Eagles might be playing next week.
Nah, don't do that. Come on, man. Don't do that.
I have no skin in the game.
I do.
Like I understand.
Don't do that.
Don't be that guy. Okay. One of my friends made my other friend watch a game through the window of a house because they thought him being in that house was ruining the result. He's literally standing at the window watching the TV.
That's great. That is great.
All right, so we'll move away from your team. Don't want to hex anybody. Let's talk about a team that I've kind of mentioned throughout the year. I said, don't worry, when the time comes, you'll see what you need to see. And that's the Buffalo Bills with the added pressure. I know. I kind of wish they would have lost last week because one of the most confident picks I could ever give is them going into New England and just destroying them. I get that. I think they would destroy New England. This is a weird one. Really? Going to Jacksonville, it's a weird place to go. It's a weird, it's not Florida hot, but it's not. It's like going to be probably 60, the weird 66 that you get in Jacksonville. It's a weird place. The team is playing with a ton of confidence, but I still believe you could also have a random implosion if things don't start right for a guy like Trevor Lawrence. But everything's going well for them. And I can't talk all year about don't you worry about it. You'll see Allen when you need to see him. And then say, well, I'm a little too worried now. It's not. No. I'm going with him. I'm going with him. Because I know what he's going to do. He'll pull out all the stops that he can. I don't know what the other team's going to do.
I admire your resolve here, but I do think this is a different looking team. They don't, and let me go on the record and say, yes, if the Bills win this game on the back of Josh Allen, or no, I should say, I would not be at all surprised by that. He's done it many times before, and they are still short road favorites. So it's not like they're dogs here. We're not, well, Josh Allen's a 7-point dog. They're 1.5 point favorites. I'm not sure they should be, but they are. And the question now is just, do you have enough weapons? And I know in the past, it's like, well, Josh Allen's been able to do it with this, and this. Yeah, I get it, but this is difficult. Like, how much is he going to have to do on his own against an objectively good defense? The Jaguars can slow the run. They allow the fewer rushing yards than any team in the league this year. They can slow the run. They have a quality enough pass rush. They're good. So I'm actually, if nothing else, I'm excited for this game. It's a fun matchup. It's not Buffalo, Kansas City anymore. It's not Baltimore, like Buffalo. It's those matchups are fun, but this one's unique. You don't see this, and I think Jacksonville's a good team. But to your point, and this is I think the most important point, you really have no clue what you're going to get with Jacksonville. Rookie head coach. They spread the ball around. There's no real clear number one in that offense. You have no clue what Jacksonville is going to show up. But if it's the Jacksonville that we've seen over the last 2.5 months of the season, then they could absolutely win this game at home, because Josh Allen recently has not, he doesn't, as good as he is, you need some supporting cast not named James Cook.
My specialty is not throwing in the towel when everyone does. The Edmonton Oilers looked like the worst team in the NHL.
But do they have the personnel?
People threw knives at me when I picked them in the opening round. They lost game 1 by like 6 goals. No, they lost game 1 closely. They lost game 2 by like 6 goals. They went down in game 3 by like 3 goals, getting destroyed. They ended up coming back in game 3, won the series, won the next series in 5, won the next series in 5, were in the Stanley Cup final. Because things change real quick with one half, one series, 2 first downs by Shakir, and then a long one down the seam by Kincaid.
Absolutely.
I've seen this happen all the time. They said the Patriots have no weapons. Then the guy comes out, you know what? I was looking, they got some good young elements there. They got this boutique guy. Diggs is reinvigorated, 100 yards per game. They're using these tight ends. They got this dynamic running back. What an offensive cast. Go look at what they said about that cast earlier in the year. Yep. It's the worst cast you've ever seen. Narrative changes are all up here. A couple of first downs. Magically, this is a good cast. You have a good half or two. Nobody's going to talk about that offense doing nothing, in my opinion. And then you can have Josh Allen playing hero ball. And Josh Allen, he has a whole different look now. I don't know. I think you guys at OddsShopper brought this to my attention. Yeah, but Josh Allen looks way different than what I remember.
Do you know who that is?
I'm assuming it's the second Josh Allen.
Yeah, it's the Josh Hines Allen on the team he's going up against on Sunday.
Don't feel bad. You've had the wrong Sebastian Aho in the NHL for multiple seasons, and I don't expect anyone to know. There are 2 Sebastian Ahos, and I can't blame you for having the useless one.
But you're everything you're saying is legitimate. I think the other question, though, is how legitimate are the Jags? The Jags might be a really good team.
I've seen plenty of legitimate teams. There are just critical moments where things unravel for teams who haven't really had to just be right up in front of that moment.
For sure. Which is why I don't mind the Steelers this week. Which is if the Bills win this game, I'll say if the Bills win this game, they're going to the Super Bowl.
That's another belief of mine, because then you're playing this weird Denver team who all of a sudden had a week off, and everyone is going to assume, it's so hard to play it. And I think it's just going to be a copy and paste of what we saw this week, where everyone was just about the defense, and they got to this, and they got to that. And yeah, Fallon wins this game. And I'm not saying this one's going to be the pretty one, but I think I've been teasing it all year. You'll see the best from the Bills when it matters. And that's what they're going to need this. I can't bail on it. I'm going to stick with it. Much unlike most of the people you see in the world these days, I'll stick with it, and I'll go down with the Bills.
They wouldn't definitely play the Broncos, though, right? I mean,
New England would have to lose.
Right. I think that's possible.
Oh, it is. That's just a rough matchup. It's so weird. I think the Bills would destroy them. I don't like I think oh my God, it's just rough. It's rough.
Justin Herbert is the type of guy who it feels like he doesn't do this. Like he doesn't have these miracle games, but in my mind, he's the type of quarterback that should have these miracle games. Does that make he can, this guy runs really well. He's Josh Allen-esque in the way he runs. I'm not saying he's Josh Allen, but he can lower his shoulder. He can break tackles. He had one the other day where it looked like he broke the collarbone of the defender who tried to tackle.
Yeah.
Herbert's a big dude, and he's got weapons. His problem is they have no offensive line. They lost Slater before the season started. Joe Alt went down. Mekhi Becton's kind of been a disappointment coming over from Philly, probably because he doesn't have Jeff Stoutland as his coach. But this Chargers team, if they had an offensive line, I'm thoroughly convinced that they would be way better than they are.
Oh, I agree. And it's so weird. I believe they could have a huge upset in them.
Yeah,
if they were playing the Broncos, like the Chiefs. Yeah, there's something I hate about them going up to New England. Like there's something the whole team comfortable. I mean, I used to see Rivers teams just always fold up there.
Mm-hmm.
There's something I don't like about this matchup for them. And then I'll leave you with anything I may have. Those were my main points for this weekend that kind of stood out to me. If there are any games where something stood out to you from a prop perspective or just the game in general, feel free to let me know.
Yeah, I mean, the thing I was going to mention is I'm considering a Travis Etienne rushing yard ladder. Now, this would be a game script play. Like this, the game would have to go the way it would have to go a very specific way because this is a Jags team that will happily abandon the run if they need to. But if this game stays competitive or they play with a positive, game script, Travis Etienne against this Bills rushing defense could be really solid. He's at 63.5 right now. I'm considering that. Haven't bet it yet. You know where to find it if I do. I'm looking for some ladder opportunities, but the prop market feels pretty sharp this week. It feels everything feels like it is where it should be. You look at this game between the Packers and the Bears. That's another.
Oh, just lead top. That's
another 1 point spread that's flipped. It was Packers -1.5, Bears -1. Now it's back to Packers -1.5 from what I saw. That game is all over the place. It's the third time.
The Packers beat them twice. Like, and you're going to say the Bears won, but they got a fake onside kick where Dobbs ran away from the Packers beat them twice, and they're going to be right. Yeah, I would be scared either way because regardless of the Bears losing both of those games, which they did, they kept moving the ball on them multiple drives. They were right there. So, while they did lose both of those games, they could have not lost those games without needing the onside kick. Like they could have won those games with one completion. So those are out of there. I got
one.
But
then the other side of that, Andy, is because I agree. I went on a big monologue about how really the Green Bay Packers should never have lost that game. On the other hand, though, you have a Packers team that's coming in because they're not saying we won that game. They're saying we should have won that game. And that's a team that we held to, was it like 6 points through the first 55 minutes of the game or whatever it was?
Yeah.
So
Chicago is very weird. Like they can go real stale for long stretches.
Super weird.
It's real weird.
Last week too, they didn't. Yeah. The Bears didn't score. Would they have 3 points or something or whatever, 6 points up until the final couple minutes, and then you blink your eyes and it's tied against Detroit? They're a weird team.
They're very weird to me. I got an alt for you, and either it's going to work or it's not going to work. As with everything in life, it's either going to work or it's not going to work. And that is, I bet you Quentin Johnston gets 2 long shots, and his yardage props at like 30 something, and he made a couple big catches down the stretch in these last couple games. They're going to chuck him a couple, even if he is covered by Christian Gonzalez. And if he gets them, you're well in the clear. If not, you lose.
Yeah, he might only need one.
Yeah, so that's the alt I will leave you with. Dave, good to be back. Good playoff episode here. We, according to me, you can just take this week off. You don't need to watch this game with friends. Do things with your kids. You just briefly, I'll text you when the Eagles are up by 3 touchdowns, just so you know you can relax. And then we're going to see those Bills, if they can come through for me, or that it's going to be a weird AFC of weird teams. Hey, if you're the rigged crowd, we already told you. Rodgers moves on, and if you're the rigged crowd, I think the Bills move on. So those are your 2 rigged bet. Do they really want Allen out of this thing? Okay. No, what's his wife's name? Is it Haley?
Yeah, something.
Haley Allen? Because I think they're married now. Don't they want to see her up in the box? Don't they want to see her up in the box? So those are your 2 conspiracy picks. Thank you so much for your patience, everybody. You know, thank you for waiting a couple weeks. I know you're still just cursing at the screen and you don't care. But I should be back with some normal videos next week. We'll have Dave and Dan next week. I'll see if I can get a hockey catch-up video to you guys this weekend. If not, we'll be back with some NHL videos next week. As always, thank you, Dave, one more time. Let them know where they can go, because if I disappear and there are no bets and I make Charles in charge, where will you have yours posted? Another great setup.
Yeah, man. Nice. Thanks. Over at Tails. Links down there, Andy. Or Tails.bet. The app is in the App Store. You name it. Find me over on Twitter at Loughy, Loughy. Come say, hey, Andy sent me.
And remember, I don't care if you lose. But they do a little bit. So, I mean, you should feel a little bit better about that. All right, we'll see you next week. Take it easy. Have a good one. Enjoy Wildcard Weekend. Later.